Welcome to Lesson 9.2, Converting Units in the Metric System. Like we talked about in Unit 1, the metric system is a base 10 system, which makes converting between the units a lot less complicated than it is to convert between customary units. When we're converting with the metric system, the first thing we need to know is all the prefixes in the metric system. Prefixes are small parts of a word that go in front of a base word to give it another meaning. So in this case, we use the sentence, King Henry died by drinking chunky milk. This will help you remember the order of those prefixes. The K in king stands for kilo. That is the biggest of the metric units. Henry stands for hecto. Died stands for deca. The B stands for base. These are all of our base units, so your meters, liters, and grams. Each of these prefixes goes on the front of these words to let you know how big or how small each of these is. Okay, drinking stands for deci, and then chunky stands for centi, and milk stands for milli. The ones we're most familiar with are kilo, centi, and milli, and of course our base units. However, you need to be able to go past these units to know how many spaces to move your decimal or how many to multiply by, etc. Okay, so if we're going up the stairs, so what I mean by this is if I have something that I measured in centimeters and I want to know how many kilometers it is, I'm going up the stairs. When I go up the stairs, my units get bigger, but as my units get bigger, the number of my units is going to get smaller. Because these units are so small, a lot of them fit into one of these. So for this reason, since our number gets smaller, we use division to figure out how many millimeters would be, or how many kiloliters would be made by this many milliliters. When we use division, what we're actually doing is moving the decimal to the left. Because each of these is base 10, we can make it simple on ourselves and just move the decimal based on how many steps we're moving. On the same token, when we're going down the stairs, we're going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, which means my number is going to get bigger. So 1 kiloliter is going to be a lot of milliliters. Because of this, since our number is getting bigger, we know we're using the operation multiplication, but we're actually going to move our decimal to the right, okay, because we want our number to get larger. You have a spot to put all of this in your notes, and I highly suggest that you do so because it'll be a nice tool for you to use when you're doing your practice work and when you're studying. All right, so we're going to try 3 of these, and I just want you to watch for the first 3. And we're going to start with 22 centimeters. So the first thing I do is I just write down the number 22. I know I have to do something with it, but first I'm going to go to my steps and I'm going to check. So I'm starting at centimeters and I'm converting to millimeters. So I go back to my steps and I'm starting at centi and I'm going down to milli. So what this means is my number is going to get larger, so I'm going to move my decimal to the right. And since I'm only taking one step, I'm only going to move my decimal one place. Now think about when you count stairs. If you stand at the base of the stairs, you don't count this as 1, you count that first actual step as 1. So moving from centi to milli isn't 2 steps, it's only 1. Okay, so I know my decimal starts here. I'm moving it one place to the right. So because there's nothing there, I know I have to add a 0. So those 22 centimeters are going to give me 220 millimeters. Right? A backpack has a mass of 6 kilograms. I want to know how many grams this is. This doesn't change just because now we're working with grams instead of meters. I still go back and take a look. I'm going from kilo to base, so I'm going down the stairs, so I'm still going to move my decimal to the right. And this time I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I write down 6, my decimal starts here, I move it 1 place to the right, so I have to add 1 0. I move it 2 places to the right, so I have to add another 0. And I move it 3 places to the right because that's how many steps it was, so I have to add another 0. So I know that 6 kilograms is going to give me 6,000 grams. You can always go back and check your work because you know based on your notes that if I went from kilo to base, my number should have gotten bigger. Okay, so you might want to write that down. On the bottom, numbers get bigger. Going up, numbers get smaller. All right, so the last one that we're going to try is with milliliters. A water bottle holds 400 milliliters, and I want to know how many liters that is. So again, I just write down my number first, and then I go back to my steps and I look. I'm going from milli to base, so I'm going up the stairs, so I know my number is going to get smaller, so I have to move my decimal to the left. And I have to move it 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So it always starts in the back, and I move it 1, 2, 3 places to the left. But because I put that decimal here, I still have to have a number in front of the decimal, so in this case it would be 0. So 400 milliliters is equal to 0 and 400 thousandths liters. If you want to, you can also write that as 4 tenths because you can take the zeros off the end without changing the value. Alright, so now we're going to take this and we're going to put it into a real life situation. During the 2004 Tour de France, Lance Armstrong was the stage winner from Tours to Blois, which has a distance of 67 5/10 kilometers. How many meters is this distance? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out what step did you start at and what step do we end at. Once you do that, you can find the answer and convert just like you've been doing here. So what I want you to do, I want you to take a minute, answer these 2 questions, convert your answer, and then come back and we'll check your answer. Alright, so we start at kilometers. When we start at kilometers, the question says that we're going to move on to meters. So I'm starting at kilo and I'm moving down to meters. That's 3 steps. And since it's 3 steps down, I know I'm going to move my decimal to the right. So I write down my 67 5/10 kilometers, and I'm going to move the decimal 1 place to the left, to the right, 2 places to the right, 3 places to the right. Now I didn't have to add a 0 here because there was already a number there, but I do have to add zeros in all of the places that did not have numbers. So that 67 5/10 kilometers was actually 67,500 meters. Alright, so what I want you to do is I want you to complete these 8 problems and I want you to post those answers on Edmodo. Make sure to show your work, you show where you start your decimal and which way you move your decimal, just like we did over here where we showed we started and we swung it. Okay, the more that you show this, the more natural it becomes and the easier this will become. Make sure to post those answers on Edmodo and post any questions that you might have or bring them with you to class tomorrow.